The Arizona Cardinals at 5-0. They put that perfect record on the line in Week 6 against Baker Mayfield. Yeah, it's Baker v. Kyler 2.0, the former Oklahoma quarterback squaring off. And the Cardinals are going to be without a key member of their pass rush. They could add, though, to their tight end room. We'll get into a couple names on this edition of Locked On Cardinals, part of your Locked On Podcast Network.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on? Rise up, Red Sea. It's Locked On Cardinals, part of your Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for checking us out, making sure that we're your first listen each and every day. Alex's voice, my voice, talking about your favorite football team. Who's not here for it? You can check us out on Twitter as well, at Locked On AZCards, at Clancy's Corner, and at BOBRACK, where somebody finally confirmed on Twitter, I'd have to check the handle on it, that I'm greater than Alex. And I full-heartedly agree. And I think it's time that the people recognize that. It's just Bo greater than sign Clancy's Corner. Easy pickings.
Yeah, maybe in a head size, maybe in a noggin bopper size. I think that's about it. Maybe height as well. Amount of children, amount of wives.
Best looking.
That's it.
Well, you don't have to pluralize wives. It's wife and no wife.
But that's amount of wives. You can't say amount of wife. That's improper English. But yeah, I appreciate the fodder. Like, we love this. So bring it. Like, this is what sports are all about. Disagreeing on things that we have no control over. It's a beautiful thing. And that's why we love what we do.
It's discussion, it's debate, it's not agreeing on things, because if you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I agree. And Alex says, yeah, that's a good point. I agree. That's boring. That's very boring. But at the same time, our show is organic because we were bred to disagree with each other. We just have like contrasting thoughts. We do. We just don't agree on anything. And, I say potato, you say potato, and that's how it goes on this show.
Except for Dane Cook. Dane Cook is one weird thing that he and I definitely agree on. End quote. Just a little inside baseball there.
A polarizing comedian that some people dislike us just for that fact. The Arizona Cardinals are going to be without one of their key pass rushers against one of the best pass or rushing teams, rushing the football teams in the NFL, with Kareem Hunt and, of course, Nick Chubb. Baker Mayfield, obviously, he's got the arm issue, but he's been throwing the ball well. And Chandler Jones is officially on the COVID list. Alex, is there any chance Chandler Jones could suit up come Sunday?
I mean, we don't know if he actually he needs 2 negative tests within a 24-hour span. That's the thing. And this just came out. This came out yesterday. Field Yates tweeted it out. And as of when we were recording this, that's the extent of what we have. He's been placed on the reserve COVID list. We don't know if it's, close contact or if he actually has contracted the virus. We have no idea at this juncture from when we're recording it.
Right. And before, a couple of weeks ago, the Arizona Cardinals had 100% of their team vaccinated. So I don't know, if that plays into Chandler Jones's cards a little bit, as they stare down a big game against a very potent offense, one that put over 40 points and lost over this past weekend to the Los Angeles Chargers. And, that's got to give you some sort of, after seeing the performance that the Browns put on against the Chicago Bears a couple weeks ago, where they sacked Justin Fields 9 times, the fact that they gave up a 40 burger to the Los Angeles Chargers has to give the Arizona Cardinals fans and their fan base, just the team, confidence that they can get back on track offensively.
I mean, you could look at it both ways. One, you look at it like the Rams, it was a letdown game against the Cardinals because they had just beat the Bucs at home. And then you could look at it the other way with the Browns, where they got, they were the first team in NFL history, I believe, who have 40 points and no turnovers going into the fourth quarter and losing the game. It was 401 or 402-0. They were the first team to lose. You could look at it as the antithesis of the Rams, where this could be the biggest game of the season for them, amped up wise because of what happened last week and how they lost. So, I mean, the thing with Chandler Jones, Bo, he hasn't had a sack since week 1. Okay. He also lived in the backfield last week against Trey Lance. So it doesn't matter. Sack numbers, sack totals, they don't matter in the grand scheme of how important a player is to the pass rush.
Right.
At least,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the only moniker for it. It's not the only, measurable for it. So sure, Chandler Jones isn't on the field. It's not going to be good for the Cardinals, but also of all the teams, the Cleveland's the most run-heavy team, maybe in the NFL, even more so than Derrick Henry in Tennessee, because they have two guys. They have two RB1s in the backfield.
The Cleveland Browns, and they're going against the Arizona Cardinals defense, which is in the bottom 5 of the league as far as yards given up on the ground. It just doesn't bode well. If you don't get better against the run in this contest, and Chandler Jones probably isn't going to help you do that, even though he had a couple TFLs, especially a big one to kind of set the tone against Tennessee in week 1.
Yeah.
Look, you go out and you pay a guy like J.J. Watt, who's fantastic against the run year in and year out. And you've got guys like Zach Allen, who are emerging, who had a big sack and a funky dance afterwards, and Marcus Golden. Like, you have depth at that position. Like, that's one of the few positions on the team, maybe outside of wide receiver, where you're just like, okay, if they could stand to lose anybody at some position, it's probably the pass rush, even though it's such a dynamic player like Chandler Jones.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and again, we still don't know anything at this point when we're recording it. We didn't miss something. We're recording this a little bit before, but you roll with the punches. I mean, the defense led by Vance Joseph has been fine when you thought that they were going to be the weak spot of this team. The Cardinals, in all honesty, don't have really a real weak spot through 5 weeks. Like, something that's like, you know what? They look great except for this. Everything is B- or better. And you've got a lot of stuff that's sort of the upper echelon of the curve with like special teams and the offense for the majority of the season so far. They'll roll with the punches. They played without Chandler Jones for 12 games last year, 11 games last year. And their defense, their pass rush got better. So it's not a negative towards Chandler Jones. They've been here before. They've played high impact games without him, and they've won games without him. That's all.
They have. They had, and they did very well in 2020, but they had some players emerge like Hassan Reddick and Dennis Gardeck, and we'll see what happens. I think that this Chandler Jones it's one of the hits, and it's just relative to what's been going on with Byron Murphy. He misses a game, and what's going on with Rodney Hudson. I'm sure we're going to get an update today as the team gets back to the facility, gets back on the practice field. We're going to hear from Cliff Kingsbury today. We're going to hear from Kyler Murray, and I'm sure we'll get some updates on some key cogs going forward for this Arizona Cardinals team, because you want them at full strength. Because when you look at this Browns team in 2021, just like the Arizona Cardinals, they're trying to change the narrative around their organization. I mean, it's an organization that's been known and has the stigma of losers, and it's changed, and it's been one season, so it doesn't change all of it, right? There's still a beaten down fan base that's not going to believe that they have a good team until they see it. I mean, until Super Bowl appearance smacks them in the face, I don't think they're going to believe that they deserve nice things, and we can identify with that. But look, this is a good Browns team. They've only lost to the Chiefs, and I know you can have your thoughts about the Chiefs this season with 3 losses.
They're still the Chiefs, okay?
They're a good team. Yes, they're a good team. And then Justin Herbert is, as far as trending quarterbacks, I don't know if there's anybody trending higher than Justin Herbert in 2021. The kid is a beast. And his Chargers offense was unstoppable. I don't care what defense you weren't stopping that offense on Sunday in week 5. So the Arizona Cardinals, they've got a tough test on the road in the dog pound. We're going to look at it. Are they going to maybe help themselves out with a addition at tight end? A name has emerged that the Arizona Cardinals have been tied to. Also, power rankings. We're going to get into some NFL power rankings. And guess what? I'm just going to bury it a little bit. Cardinals aren't number 1. Cardinals are not number 1 still, yet they're the only undefeated team remaining in the NFL. I do have to tell you that if you buy gas, you have to get the Get Upside app. It's just, what are you doing? You're just lighting money on fire at this point, because if you get the Get Upside app, listeners are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. And if you download the free Get Upside app in the Apple Store or Google Play right now, you can use the promo code touchdown and get an extra 25 cents per gallon. That's 50 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's using the promo code touchdown. 50 cents per gallon cash back your first tank. Some people who drive a lot, they're making upwards of $200, $300 each and every month from the Get Upside app. You can cash out anytime into your bank account, PayPal, e-gift card, or Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app, use the promo code TOUCHDOWN, and just start making money every time you go to the pump to fill up your tank. Brack, Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals, part of your Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for checking us out each and every day on Twitter, at Locked On AZCards, at Clancy's Corner, at BOBRACK, and making us your first listen each and every morning. Incredible. We are humbled by where this podcast has gone, where the YouTube channel has gone. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. The Arizona Cardinals have a huge matchup each and every week. It's another big test for this team that we got excited about in 2020 and then kind of raised the expectations and then ended up being disappointed with an 8-8 finish on the outside looking in. So there's always kind of, like I said, with the Browns, this fan base has been snake bitten so many times that they're not going to believe things until they do something that we haven't seen before. Like the 2015 team that went 13-3 and had an NFC championship appearance. You know, there weren't people that I'm sure relaxed all season long, despite the Arizona Cardinals blowing the doors off teams throughout that season.
Or the other side is people have gone completely off the rails and they're in It's a Small World at Disneyland every second of every day, just relishing in this. It really depends on how rational you want to be with your fandom. If you want to stop at fan or go all the way to fanatic. But yeah, these are first world problems to have, man. You know, like the fact that the Cardinals are 5-0 and we talked about this, like, let's just take another second because we don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know. Crazy things happen in the NFL all the time. But you look at with where the Seahawks and 49ers are. These are the next 6 games. Remember, the Cardinals are 5-0. Well, they're 5-0, right? They're 5-0. They go on the road to play Cleveland this week. Then they're at home against the Texans, at home against the Packers, and then they play the 49ers, Panthers, and Seahawks in 3 consecutive weeks, 2 of which are on the road. But if the Cardinals win on Sunday, anything could happen on a Thursday night. The Cardinals could legitimately be 10-1 through 11 weeks. You know what I mean? And it's crazy that because the 49ers are playing Trey Lance, we think like they have their bye week this week, luckily, because he has a sprained knee or sprained ankle that might cause him to lose some time. And then you have the Seahawks. Who knows if Russell Wilson's going to be back or on the Seahawks altogether? Who knows what's going to happen up there? And then you have Houston and then Carolina, who look like a world beater and now coming back to earth. This is what happens. I'm not saying it's going to happen. This is what happens when teams make Super Bowl runs. We talked about this with the 49ers 2 years ago. Balls and things bounce your way, whether it be injuries, even though you don't want them to ever happen to your team or otherwise. Things like this happen. You set up when you take care of business. You have Greg Joseph miss a 35-yarder at home to get you a win at the end of the game against Minnesota. You have injuries to key players on other teams that will directly affect your win-loss record. Things like this happen when magical runs happen. And I'm not saying the Cardinals are in the middle of one, but I'm not saying they're not either, especially with the next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, no doubt about it. It's pretty crazy. Like, pinch me the idea that the Arizona Cardinals could realistically get to 10-1. It's pretty wild. I mean, it is wild. I mean, the fact that they're 5-0 at this point in the season, it's Looney Tunes. But standing in their way.
That's a good one. Looney Tunes is a good one.
Is a team that it's just odd when you see what happened in week 5 to the Browns, that they gave up so many points, because the previous 2 weeks to that, the Vikings put up 7. And then the week before that, the Bears put up, was it 6? They gave up 13 points in 2 weeks of football. And then gave up triple that? 6 times that, right? I mean, it's unbelievable what they were doing in the previous 2 weeks, and then they fell off a cliff. The defense did. And they're going to be looking to get back on track. I mean, in this week against Kyler Murray, and then you've got that, like a defense trying to get back on track and an offense trying to get back on track. The rubber's going to meet the road, and somebody's going to get back on track. And is it going to be the Cardinals offense? It's up to Cliff Kingsbury to make sure that happens.
And especially if you're without Chandler Jones, like the offense is going to have to win that game. You're right. I mean, that's the offense. That's going to be a game. That's not going to be a low scoring affair. regardless of what's happening with OBJ and Jarvis Landry being off the shelf, you got to give Baker Mayfield credit, but you also have to be like, that run offense is allowing the play action world to open wide for Baker Mayfield to kind of pick apart defenses. But yeah, I mean, this is the first real, like, the Rams offense was good, right? Their offensive line was fine. Matthew Stafford has his limitations. This offense, as you mentioned, could put up 50 points in any game, the Browns, in any game. So we'll see what this secondary looks like if Byron Murphy comes back healthy, if Marco Wilson comes back healthy, or if he's hobbled. Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson can do what they do if Chandler Jones plays. There's a lot of uncertainty going across the country. The one thing that the Cardinals have in their favor is that they're playing in the afternoon slot, even though they're going to be in Cleveland, which is beneficial. You don't want to play a morning game if you don't have to.
Right.
When you're not at home.
Yeah, you avoid the weird wake up times and just getting out of your schedule, and that's great for the Arizona Cardinals.
Well, and also one last thing is like the dog pound is top 3 in the NFL, regardless of how good Cleveland is. That is one of the more violent crowds to go play in front of.
Yeah, it's hot. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, because the Rams, SoFi Stadium, it's Hollywood. Nobody cares about football there. I mean, like they do, but it's not all they could go to the beach. What do you got? I mean, like Cleveland, they live and breathe Browns football.
Right.
So it's just gonna be another element the Cardinals are gonna have to overcome.
The Baker Mayfield's had such a weird season. I was looking at his numbers, just 4 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. Is that right? Is that right in 2021?
I mean, yeah, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb on the ground have 12 touchdowns combined.
So they're just hawking all of his touchdowns, but it's just so it doesn't mean like Baker is going to that if you slow down Baker Mayfield that you're going to get a W in this game. But yeah, that's right. 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions from Baker Mayfield. The yardage is there, 1,200 yards passing, but just kind of a strange number when you look at what Kyler Murray's doing. Kyler Murray just he's only been sacked 10 times. So you talk about, that pass rush from Cleveland, but it's more than just a pass rush like what we've seen with the Arizona Cardinals, where it's just going to be making Kyler Murray uncomfortable. And that's what the Niners were able to do last week. Man, it's going to be another great game. It's going to be another great game. It's going to tell us a lot more about this team. And it's one of those games to where you get a little weary of the opponent. And then at the end of the week, we could be talking about another big win. Like just the way things have played out for Cleveland recently. I mean, it also does depend on health. And we'll see what they say about Byron Murphy. And we'll see what they say about Rodney Hudson. That's probably the key guy here. No Chandler Jones potentially with COVID. So it's just I can't wait to see what happens, because I think 6-0 is a very real possibility. Very real possibility.
Yeah, and didn't they beat Cleveland at home last year, right? Or 2 years ago?
They beat them in Glendale. Was
that last year?
It was in Kyler Murray's rookie season. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was 2 years ago. Okay, right. I think Nick Chubb was hurt, but still, they still beat Baker Mayfield here, and the game didn't really matter a whole lot in the grand scheme of the season. But yeah, I mean, this isn't a letdown game. This isn't a trap game. If the Cardinals happen to lose by 17 points, they're not a bad team. Like this isn't them losing to Houston or something where it completely erases the first 5 weeks of momentum.
And I don't want to say this is not being negative at all. All right. And I know you say that all the time, and then you probably follow it up with something negative, but I'm saying this as letdowns are inevitable in the NFL. You can't avoid them. Like there's probably, the Patriots that went 18-0, but they had the letdown in the final week of the season. It's inevitable. Like somebody's going to catch up to you. You're going to have a bad game. They were able to weather a bad offensive performance the week before. Good on San Francisco's defense, but also Arizona Cardinals offense. With all those weapons, 17 points. I think that people they wanted to see more, and I think that they're right by wanting that. But it's going to happen. Is it going to be this week? Can they hold off another week? That only sets them up for down the backstretch of the season to kind of have more breathing room and a little bit more comfortability as they make their way, as they aim for the postseason. Alex Clancy, Bo Brock, hanging out with you. Locked On Cardinals. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube. You think the Arizona Cardinals, they're going to take this one in Cleveland, improve to 6-0? Let us know in the comments on the YouTube. In the YouTube comment section. Thanks for everybody who tunes in each and every morning on the premiere at 10 a.m. That's when we premiere our YouTube videos. You can catch the podcast It's up each and every night at midnight. So if you want to kind of get an early listen, you can certainly do that wherever you find podcasts. The power rankings, I already told you, spoiled it for you. They are not at the top of the power rankings, but did the Arizona Cardinals move up from 3? We'll get into it right here on Locked On Cardinals, and we'll finally reveal the player that could be joining this roster in week 6, or just could be joining this roster and maybe bolster the tight end position potentially without Max Williams. I got to tell you about the best tasting protein bar on the planet. It's Built Bar. Unbelievable. I found a gas station that sells Built Bar. Go and I'll buy one each and every day now. I also have my stash at home where I went to built.com, saved myself 15% with the promo code LOCKED15. Coconut, almond, cherry, raspberry, mint brownie, peanut butter brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel. There's something for everyone. Figure out which Built Bar you like the best, and or get a mix box, get a couple of the flavors that you like, and you're good to go. Most flavors have 17 grams of protein, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and only about 130 calories. So healthy, tasty, those worlds collide. Do yourself a favor and save yourself some cash while you're at it. Go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your first order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Alex, you been checking the spread out on this contest?
No.
Well,
too early.
Dude, it started at 2.5.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to get in on the action of this game, there's no better place than betonline.ag. It's your number one spot for pro and college football action this season, with new updated odds, an updated site as well, an interface, and even more odds, props, and contests. BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website, betonline.ag. Use your cell. Sign up today. Receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. You put in $50, you get $25 free to play around with. Build your stack. Don't forget to use the promo code LOCKEDON, one word. From football, basketball, boxing, hockey, they drop the puck. You've got baseball playoffs in full swing, Vegas casino games. Take advantage of all their amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline, the fastest, easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Taking a look at our power rankings. I must be reading the wrong damn ads. That's what you get. I just love betonline.ag that I decided to give them some extra love. People complain about too many ads on our channel, and I read an extra one. That's full disclosure here. Let's get into the power rankings here.
Yeah.
You can see them on our YouTube page. We'll read them off for you. Your top 5 goes as follows. The Ravens, after a bonkers game from Lamar Jackson to rally all the way back and beat the Colts, they're at 4-1 and they're 5th. The LA Rams are 4th at 4-1 after they rebounded from their beatdown from the Cardinals. The Bucs drop one spot despite absolutely just blowing the doors off the Miami Dolphins. And the Arizona Cardinals at 5-0 check in at number 2, up from 3. And the Bills hold steady at number 1, because if you're going to beat down Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill, people are going to tip your cap to you. And it'd be hard-pressed for anybody to move them out of there after that convincing win on Sunday night, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, if that was a close game, if it was a field goal game, I think that Cardinals probably be flipped. But the Bills are the best team in the NFL right now. Like, they are. The Bucs defense is suspect at times. Tom Brady, obviously. Can we just take a second and appreciate Tom Brady for like 10 seconds? He threw 5 touchdown passes. I think it was over 400 yards in what the Dolphins defense was supposed to be a top 5, top 7 defense. But that's what it looks like when your offense can't stay on the field. It doesn't matter how good your defense is, because everybody is running on empty midway through the second quarter, and then you have a whole other half to play. Tom Brady, just 1 second, can we just appreciate what the hell he's doing?
It's pretty sick. He'd never done that before with the 400 plus yards in the
He's 44 years old, Bo.
Yeah, he's got 7 rings, and we saw something. That's what's great about sports. We saw something that he's never done before.
Yeah.
And just continues to. He's a fine wine, Tom Brady.
Now, are you good with the Cardinals at 2? Like, do you think the Bills are still, like, who's the best team in the NFL through 5 weeks?
I can't get over the fact that the Bills lost to a pretty suspect Pittsburgh Steelers team in week 1. We're just going to gloss over that. Like they think that wins over some of the worst offenses in the league, and they face some pretty bad defenses overall as well. They're taking advantage of it. Like obviously they've got a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. And that defense is rebounding after a down year from last year. They were a good year the previous season. But it's tough. I mean, I was watching Josh Allen on Sunday night. He's so good. Like he is just dialed in. Him and Brian Dable are just on the same page. And just to have the size, the arm strength, the athleticism, it's just he's the full package. I was thinking about he's LeBron James. He's not LeBron James in the way that he transcends the game and the star power and stuff, but the package as far as the size and the ability to move around, and he's the kind of LeBron mold of football. Kyler's the Steph Curry.
Yeah.
And I think that's not a knock on.
No.
Steph Curry's a 2-time MVP, isn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah. I just think that they're just set up differently. And what Kyler needs to show now is the ability week in and week out, like Josh Allen, to where teams can't keep up with his skill set. Like you can take this part out of his game and then he's just going to do this. You're going to take away the deep pass. He's going to kill you with his speed and his athleticism, or he's going to drill balls underneath. Josh Allen seems to just be fired on all cylinders. And I think Kyler's very close. He's just not there yet. He's where Josh Allen was at this point last year. And that's very high praise.
Right. I mean, and they added Stephon Diggs and everything changed overnight. Yeah. The Cardinals have added weapons and everything changed overnight. I've compared Josh Allen to Kyler Murray just in the polar opposite way. Josh Allen should not be doing what he's been able to do with his body type. He shouldn't. And you see Justin Herbert, it kind of softens it now. It's like, oh, there's two of them. But Kyler's, pound for pound, Floyd Mayweather, the best quarterback. Like you just talk about him in different ways, but they're not normal sized either side. And the best part about, I think Josh Allen grew up in California. So you take Josh Allen, you throw him in Wyoming, and then he goes to the Bills, and he is Buffalo football. Immediately, he's Brett Favre. And it's the craziest thing just to see a town just embrace a kid. And you got to pay credit where credit is due. Now, having said that, if the Cardinals win on Sunday, they're the 1 seed regardless of what happens with the Bills. Because that means that they've beaten Tennessee's a good team. They played like crap. It was like the Pittsburgh Bills thing in week 1. Week 1's weird. They beat Tennessee, they beat the Rams, they beat Cleveland. They're the 1 seed. They've got to be the number 1 seed. I didn't vote for the Cardinals as the 1 spot. Now I think I voted for the Bills still.
Yeah, it's just at this point in the season when you're undefeated, it's tough to make your case against them. But the Bills have signature wins all over their up and down their schedule. Texans, Dolphins, I don't know.
I get it.
I'd love to see what the Cardinals could do against those teams. But, we'll see. We'll see. The Cardinals will face the Texans here pretty soon. Hopefully they'll still get to avoid Tyrod Taylor and see Davis Mills. Even though Davis Mills played pretty well against the Patriots over the weekend. 3 touchdowns, no picks. Probably the better performance of any rookie quarterback in the league in week 5. But, yeah it's the Arizona Cardinals. I've got them at number 1. I do. But you're just Bills, Cardinals. There isn't, at least we're not putting Tampa, who had a bad loss to LA. We're not putting LA, who the Cardinals crushed. So it's fair. And somebody put it to me this way, and it makes sense to me, is do the Cardinals, are they favored against the Bills on a neutral field? Probably not. Probably not. No. The Cardinals they're not favored against Cleveland in Cleveland. And, as you said, the dog pound is a pretty hostile environment, but they've lost a lot of games there. So it only goes so far. But Cardinals number 2. I'm fine with that. I'm not beating down the door of everybody that voted the Bills ahead of the Cardinals in these power rankings on the Locked On Podcast Network.
Right. And let's get to this before we get out of here. Richard Rodgers was worked out by the Cardinals. Tight end help. His probably his most famous catch was the Hail Mary when he was with Green Bay against Detroit, where he was at the 2-yard line and then backed up into the end zone and caught the ball at the end of the game. That guy and we saw him flashes for fantasy football fans out there. He showed flashes in Philly, I believe it was last year. The dude can run a route turn around, and catch the ball. That's what the Cardinals need from the tight end position, right? And he could do more than that. He's a good pass blocking tight end. He was used as that until Aaron Rodgers kind of got a little juice with him in Green Bay, and then there were some injuries in Philly, so he took that role, and Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert went out. He'd be perfect. He'd be perfect. Serviceable. He's like, he's a glue guy from the tight end position who can block and run routes.
I don't disagree with that. I think that Richard Rodgers is actually probably the best route running tight end they've had, even more so than Dan Arnold gave you last year. I mean, as far as just going out there and running routes like he can, and like we saw last year, how you mentioned he was kind of a fantasy football darling. There was one game where he had eight catches or 8 targets for 85 yards. He took in 6 of those catches. He was the tight end in that Philly offense with Ertz and Goddard out. And the Cardinals haven't had a guy like that. And it's weird that you can find him at this point in the season. I think as far as playmaking ability, we'll see what he can offer run blocking wise and just blocking wise. But I like Richard Rodgers. I think it's pretty crazy that he's still available. I'd love to see the Arizona Cardinals give him a contract, bring him in, get him up to speed.
Yeah. He's big also. Like, I don't know how big. I think he's like 6'5".
6'4", 57.
Yeah, so he's a big boy. And you know what they need? Red zone threats. That's all you need. You need big red zone targets. You got DeAndre Hopkins, who's only 6 feet, but you saw what he did last week. 6'4" with AJ Green. You've got the speedsters on the outside to run the end arounds or whatever weird trickeration you want to run in Kyler Murray. Richard Rodgers can set up on the line, downside hike, run 5 yards, turn around, and catch a ball because teams are going to forget about him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if they sign him, that is a Steve Keim home run week 5 into the season. You're right. He should be rostered. He doesn't make a lot of money. Give him $2 million and just let him, and we'll see what happens. It's going to be a lot of 1-year deals for the Cardinals this year. And through 5 weeks, you're bringing all these babies back. You're bringing everybody back.
Well, yeah, especially when you got Darrell Daniels, who comes off the COVID list. That was a move that was made official yesterday. So your tight end room, with the prospect of Max Williams probably missing the remainder of the season, and then you being able to add Richard Rodgers and Darrell Daniels, it's like, I don't think you fall off that much, if not get a little bit better as far as your playmaking ability. So Cardinals number 2 in the power rankings. We got our crossover Thursday coming your way tomorrow. Our guy Jeff Lloyd, Locked On Browns, always entertaining. He's kind of is it fair? And I don't mean this like as a mean, he's kind of a curmudgeon, right? He's kind of a Browns curmudgeon sometimes. Isn't he? Like he loves
Wouldn't
this.
You be? Holy crap.
Fits the mold of the fan base. And I mean that in the most loving way.
And imagine the last important game they played. Chad Henne ran a rollout on 4th down to clinch a playoff game because Patrick Mahomes was out. Like that's the last time they played a meaningful game, was the playoffs last year. It was Chad Henne, right? The backup. Yeah. And Andy Reid, the maniac, went forward on 4th down to seal the game. Like, they had that game. Cleveland should have won that game against Kansas City, like they should have during the regular season this year.
If you were a Browns fan, it probably made you want to spike whatever you're drinking, whatever's left in the can, and your remote control. It would have been infuriating to watch. It's going to do it for us, Alex and Bo. Make sure you follow along on Twitter at Clancy's Corner, at BOBRACK, and of course at Locked On AZ Cards. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen. Make sure to check out Peacock and Williamson. And tomorrow on the Locked On NFL podcast, your second listen has to be Alex Clancy and Tyler Rowland breaking down the biggest news around the league. That's tomorrow on Locked On NFL. Crossover Thursday tomorrow for us with Jeff Lloyd from Locked On Browns. We'll talk to you then. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.